Hey everyone, today I sat down with Anthony Hootie Russo. He's an ex-Gambino mob associate. Anthony talks about meeting Sonny Franzese at a young age. He also talks about selling drugs as when he was a kid, and he also talks about almost becoming a made man 3 times. And on top of that, he was part of the 127-man takedown back in 2011 where they arrested all the mob guys. Please hit that subscribe button if you want to get more content like this. All right, welcome back to the IOY podcast. Today I got a new guest on today. Go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
What's up, guys? My name's Hootie, Anthony Russo. They used to call me Hootie in the streets. Former organized crime member, Gambino crew member. Probably, I don't know if these guys seen the indictments and seen the guys I used to run around the city with. They used to call us the princes of the city. All the upper echelon, the Gambino family. All the wild boys that ran through Ozone Park, East New York, Howard Beach, from the '80s to recently. That was us. That was me. So it's Adrian. It's a pleasure being here.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. I really heard, bits and pieces of your story, and it's really fascinating, so I just really wanted to have you on here. I thought you'd be a great guest, and, kind of break down, your early childhood, before, joining the mob, what was kind of your childhood like?
I appreciate you thinking of me like that. Yeah. Well, I was kind of running the streets. I was an orphan. I lost my family at a young age, my mother and father, and I really didn't have extended family. Everybody had their own thing going on, their own lives, their own family. So kind of had to do what I needed to do. And I got involved in the streets. I got involved with drugs hard. And I went that route with, when I was young, pushing nickel bags for dimes in school because I lived on the border of Queens and Brooklyn. And, I had a lot of friends in Queens and I had a lot of friends in East New York, Brooklyn. So they wouldn't, my friends from Queens didn't want to go into Brooklyn and get drugs. And, guys from Brooklyn couldn't come into certain parts of Queens. So I would go into Brooklyn and, get drugs as a kid and bring it back in and all the bullshit, 5 for 10, things like that. Then I got involved in mescaline and acid. We used to go up into Central Park West 110. We used to buy like a sheet of acid, whatever it was at the time is what we got. Like you didn't know, you didn't put your order in. It was like, I need 500 of this. And you either got 500 hits of mescaline or 500, on a sheet. They used to come 100 in a sheet. You get 5 sheets and you break it up. And, I got involved in that for a while. The money was, small but good. And then, I hooked up with some Dominican friends and learned about the cocaine business and learned how to cook cocaine. It was right at the end of the crack era. And that was it, man. I was off. I was bossing up at a young age, because I could cook. I had corners. I had kids that wanted to work. And that's what I did. And I knew about drugs and it escalated from there. My childhood was just like, it's very like, I don't know. It's kind of like The Godfather meets Power.
Yeah.
It's actually like how I would want my book to become a screenplay to become a movie. Like Power meets The Godfather, Sicilian style, Cosa Nostra to the end. And then you got all your hood boys and the drug game and what's going on in the streets. And that's what it was, like I met Sonny Franzese when I was 5 at my grandmother's funeral, like I seen 2 dead bodies by the time I was 10, 2
Damn.
hits were done, so I got that part of my life. And then I got guys running around. I grew up on 101st Avenue, which was like a breathing ground for organized crime, all 5 families. So like, it's funny because I hear a lot of guys like trying to get meetings or even made guys I hear that, now change their lives or, use that as an excuse to be an informant and come on these shows and talk now on how it took them all this time to meet the upper echelon of their family. And it was like, I was running through the neighborhood, meeting all the bosses of the 5 families. You know what I mean? Like all the guys, all the top guys, acting bosses, street bosses, they all knew Hootie. Like, what's up? What, like breaking balls or grab you, give you a beating if you say something different or something. Well, like that's how it was. And then I had this whole other life where I was learning how to cook drugs and then start moving big weight from quarter keys, big eights and half a keys to keys, and thinking I could be even bigger than that, going down to Mexico to get caught up, like just learning all about that. That, of course, didn't work out. Still with my regular connect. And by the time I was 17, 18, I worked in bookmaking offices for the Gambino family, sold fireworks, did all of that. So I built a little name for myself, had a little crew. They knew that, whatever they needed in certain drug aspects to come to see me, or bookmaking, or to borrow money. Now I'm on that level of taking sports and loaning money out. Starting at 14, I'm learning all of this in the streets. Look, I took my first bet at 14, and I tied my first Christmas tree at 14 for tips. Like, I'm trying to live the regular life, and I'm on the Christmas tree, standing on the corner working for the guy, like the other normal kids, but I'm pushing drugs at the lot. You know what I mean? And that's connected to the Gambino family, and I'm watching the Gambino family guy that they send to extort this guy, and it's like, that guy's a bum to me. It's like he's extorting this guy I'm working for. This guy's a bum. Like, to me, I look at these guys, I'm like, wow. Because I know the guys that are the real guys in the street. So I'm like, I can't be doing this. I got to go. I'm in the streets, and I just went 100% into the streets and just tore it up, created such a great name for myself. And, I grew up with a lot of guys that were older than me. So I got to respect that they had my back. And if we get into fights, I'm getting into fights with guys their age, getting my teeth knocked out, getting my head kicked in, learning. That was just my learning experiences. And everybody was older than me. I mean, the youngest guy was probably 8 years older than me.
Damn.
My mentor is 70-something. All my mentors are in their 70s now. Like, not even know. A lot of them don't even know they were my mentor, because I just sat and watched them every day, what they did, hung out with them. I would come around the spot, the cafe, the pizzeria, and just hang out with them and show respect. And just like that. And I'm talking to them and hanging out. And then there's made guys that can't get meetings like that with these captains, and I'm in the spot just hanging out, and every day. And then before you know it, we're yelling at the TV screen watching, Italy play, or in the World Cup, or watching the Yankees play, and it's just like, man, and before you know it, it's like, they're looking to scout me, I'm over here 18, 19 years old, pushing Lexuses, Rolexes, the whole 9 yards. And these guys are watching me, and they're like, not even thinking about shaking me down. That wasn't even a question, because I would have loved to see one of those dudes come and try to shake me down. Because it's like I said, these guys were lames, and it was like, I want to be with the big guys, the bosses,
So how did you?
These guys weren't nothing.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to ask. How did you get it so good in with these guys? The older guys. Because you said you're a hell of a lot younger. Did they take you in after, your parents had passed away?
I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of guys that I was running with on the street, especially in Cosa Nostra, didn't even know my name was Anthony Russo. Everybody thought it was Hootie. That's it. No, I'm talking about, I think it was by the time I got engaged young and I got married, I think it was an engagement party I was having. Mm-hmm. And I was sending invitations out. And I swear to you, there was like 20 guys that didn't know who. They're like, who sent me this invitation? And I'm hanging out with these guys for 10 years. You know what I mean? I remember the guy was like, Anthony Russo, like, yeah, it's the kid Hootie from up there. It all started, my name was Cutie Hootie. So they said, Cutie Hootie from up the block. And, when I turned 18, it became just Hootie, but I was young. It was Cutie Hootie, so that's how it really happened. I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of these older guys didn't even, and it was just from living in the area, being around, and, like, just carrying myself a certain way. To this day, Adrian, I'm going to be honest with you, I got so much respect for guys in Cosa Nostra. You see, guys will come on here and cut all these guys up, just because there's one particular part of Cosa Nostra that's a cancer. I don't betray or think it's Cosa Nostra as a whole isn't the issue. It's like a religion, and I say this often. When the Twin Towers got hit, and those guys happened to be Muslim, I didn't blame. I was in New York. I was right there. I was having a child be born that day. I would have been in the city on I was 75 broad. I was at the time as a shoppy. You know, I mean, there was a notion I just hung out. You know, but I would have been there, and
Yeah.
I didn't blame nobody. I didn't mean in the Muslim race, and I lived in Ozone Park, so City Line became all Middle Eastern and you know little parts of Asia, which is you know because people think you blame Punjabis and Indians, and they're not even Muslim. You know, like people don't even get this shit right. It was
Yeah.
like when the coronavirus hit, and they were they were blaming the Koreans.
Yeah.
They're not even Chinese. You know, it's a totally different country. Like this is the shit that goes on with these people. And it's sad because I'm from New York, so and most of these people are New Yorkers that do this.
Mm-hmm.
So just like I said, like I didn't go into City Line on one end or South Ozone Park, which was like nicknamed Little Guyana, and blame all of them for what these radicals, Pakistani guys did. You know what I mean? It's just so I don't blame Cosa Nostra as a whole for
Yeah.
what I believe to be rotten and a cancer. You know what I mean? And then these other guys that come in and they talk all that shit they used to be. Some of them used to be Cosa Nostra. That's because they fooled somebody and one person believed in them, and that was it. Me, if I go into Cosa Nostra, I'm knowing everybody. I'm knowing 100 guys in that family, 100 guys in that family, 50 guys in that family. You're coming in and you're watching it, Phil Curtis on A&E, and that's how you know about these guys, and you get straightened out. And now you could say everybody's name because there's nobody around anymore, and you're just going to meetings and sitting down. I was sitting down when sitting down was right. You know what I mean? After 2011, I don't care who you sat with. It's bullshit. I was in meetings with bosses and tough guys and killers and gangsters whose names are going to go down with an ER are going to go down in history as the baddest motherfuckers alive. And you know what? Who's to say they're right and wrong? Whatever higher power they believe in, that's who's going to judge them. Not the courts, not the southern districts, eastern districts of all over the world, because they're in every city. And there's not New York, you know what I mean? Chicago has their own. Florida has their own. You know, it's that's you know minor to what they're going to have to whatever you know go in front of their higher power, whatever it is that they believe in after this. So, like I said, I got so much respect for so many guys because I grew up without parents. And they showed me, you know, they showed me how to eat. They showed me how to dress. They showed me how to drink. They showed me what was good. You know what I mean? They showed me what was right in a man, you know, in a person and what to be. And, you know, and I didn't turn out to be a scumbag, even if people want to think like that. And I got people in the streets to thank for that. So you'll never hear me sit here and cut up everybody that comes from, you know what? That's my world. That's my life.
Right.
You know, your world might be finance. Your world might be getting up and living that, you know, Rockwell painting. You know what I mean? That's cool. You know, I found legitimate guys, and this is people who do shit sneaky and you don't know about it, and they're putting their hands on your sister or you know, or your mother or whoever, you know, and those guys are kind of to be more scumbags than guys in the streets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they just don't get caught. That's the
Yeah.
problem. They're not getting caught what they're doing. You know, we're out in the open. We're hanging out in the front of the pizzerias. We're in front of the social clubs. And that's one thing the Asians taught me. They still haven't been infiltrated. Yeah, you might have got a few of them. No. The Asians, you go to any Chinatown in any city. You can't tell who's a triad, who's part of another one. You know, these Asian gangs are all over. You can't tell because they either own the restaurant, they either own the massage parlor, they either own the building, and they're in there. And you can't tell them if they're the workers or if they're the gangsters. You know, and they still haven't been infiltrated the way other organized crime has been infiltrated. And the Italians, it's because we made the most media. You know, Giuliani had the biggest hot on for us, created the RICO law for the Italians, but there was other ethnic backgrounds getting locked up. I mean, when I got pinched in 2011, and you know, I was the 127 guys. That was the biggest pinch in the history of the Mafia, and that was here, Italy, and all 7 families. You know, people don't realize they don't know that there truly was 7 families, not just 5, that was recognized as true Cosa Nostra. And I'm getting thrown in federal prison with 500 bloods. with 500 nietas, with 500 patias. And I'm like, yo, what the fuck? In the feds? Yeah. And these guys don't even understand what RICO is because they don't come from my world. But they're getting locked up on that RICO now because what are you going to keep doing? Which is true. They just keep locking the same Italians up over and over, keeping us on parole. Oh, let's look through the book. You know what? Let's follow this guy. He has to be doing something wrong today. That's the way organized crime works against Italians. And then it just runs out. And they got to use these, this law that they have on other groups. But it's not making the news the way we were. You know what I mean? Like, it's not making the newspapers. Yeah, you hear about a shooting in Brownsville. You hear about somebody up in the Bronx, in a domestic getting killed. But that's it. You don't hear. There's gangs right now getting picked up all over the 5 boroughs, Jersey, Connecticut, just the tri-state area under RICO Act. And you don't hear a word about it because they're not Italian.
That's what you say it's made for, because that's what, when it brought down the 127, or members of the families, right? And you were a part of
Absolutely.
that. So when that came down, what did that look like for you? Like, did you see all these guys that were from these other families? Did you see them, or did they just put you in a different cell, or, how did this go down?
That was probably one of the craziest days of my life. So like a year before, maybe 10 months, 11 months, I haven't been around. I get pinched on a big pharmaceutical case. I go away. I go up north for a couple of years. I come home. I'm on supervised release. Supervised release in the States really strict. Like, they test you for alcohol. You got to be home by 7 o'clock. They do house visits 3 times a week. So I was on the hardcore pro. And then and you do get a list in the state. It's like an invisible list, it's called, of guys you got to stay away from. Because in New York State, when you get pinched for organized crime, it's called enterprise corruption. It's not called organized. It's OC, but it's not RICO. It's enterprise corruption. People don't realize that. So my record followed me all the way through the state, every jail, Rikers Island. And maybe that got me a little respect. I don't know. Being stamped OC, and everybody knows that. It's in your paperwork. And the guards know that. The COs know that. And that's the way it works in the state. So now I'm on this enterprise corruption. And you come home and you go into that parole room, everybody in there. It's either you was up north with half of them and the other half are from your neighborhood. And that's the only time you could be around them, because now you can't be around convicted felons. You definitely can't be around Cosa Nostra because, that's enterprise corruption. It's just like RICO. So I stood away for like 6 years. I really, I caught a bad taste in my mouth for the part of Cosa Nostra I was staying with when I got pinched on this pharmaceutical case. Right away, when you get pinched on something, there's certain crews that stand by you. And then there's certain crews, he's a rat, he's no good, forget him. It's like, how you already condemning the man? That he's no good. And a lot of guys do that because they're just scared of these drug laws, you know what I mean? Like, and that I kind of got that from guys that I was real close with. And it's like, bro, I'm holding this down. It's bullshit. I can't wait to go up there and come back and wear this bit as a badge. It's my life. Supposed to go to jail, right? That's what I'm told my whole life. You don't tell, you go to jail, you get tatted in jail, you do this, you do that. Like that whole mentality is just how you live. Regardless that I got a good education, regardless that, like I could have went right through college with no problem, you know what I mean? But I had to be in the streets. Like, regardless of any of that, I still got that street mentality. And it's like, you worried about me? I can't wait to get up there and come back and show you this badge. Like that's how it was. And sometimes they skip over you thinking that you're not built like that. But they don't realize when you don't come from nothing and you got nothing to lose and you're part of something that's bigger than you and everybody else, you're going to do anything for that. And that's how I felt about Cosa Nostra when I was 18. And I shouldn't have felt like that because my story was going so well before Cosa Nostra. But I met the top guys, and that's what happened. We used to beef with these guys and wars like Ozone Park against Howard Beach. And, they were older than me. Some of them were my age. And I'm talking about wars and, guys would have to sit down for guys from Ozone Park. And because the guys from Howard Beach were, they were all the boss's kids and nephews and sons. That was the upper echelon. So when that all ended and the beefs finally got squashed and Ozone Park and Howard Beach weren't separate anymore like that. I went right in with like the top guys, like boom. And then it was like I was on the New York Yankees roster, and they were just who wanted to pick me. Like I was out of the minors. The Yankees wanted me. The Boston Red Sox wanted me, and that's just how it was. And there was a guy I always said when I was younger, watching this man roll and knowing his background, and always just being around him as a kid. Like if I ever get into Cosa Nostra, I'm gonna be with him. I'm not gonna be with anybody else. Like that guy was, and that was Ronnie One Arm Trucchio. And to this day, I respect that man. Talk with his name with respect, and to anybody, it will never be spoken bad. And I never did anything to harm the man, talk bad about the man, hurt him, nothing, because I had nothing but respect for him. And all the years I got to be around him, I learned, and he mentored me, and he was probably the most powerful Gambino captain around after John Sr. went away. And to me, that was it. It was the New York Yankees. I was playing shortstop, and I was batting first with him. And like my story goes, I decided to be around Cosa Nostra in November. In October, I made $100,000 selling drugs that month.
Holy
and that
shit.
was probably, it could have been more, but I worked maybe 2 hours a week, just, with the connect to the drop to that was it. And I was good with that, so I remember in October, I made 100,000. I must have been 18, 19. I was young. And that November, I go into Cosa Nostra, stop drugs, all of that. I worked 3 weeks. I made $2,800 and got pinched on a RICO case in 3 weeks.
What the hell?
Yeah.
When you're ready to turn.
That's Cosa Nostra. And I'm looking back and I'm thinking, I remember at 19, I'm in Mexico and I'm dumb, young and dumb. Probably would have been hanging from a bridge in Juarez if it wasn't, for a little guidance from, higher power and meeting somebody. And I learned that first lesson from an old timer that I had connection to. He was probably an old Sicario, and he said, "We don't deal with the Mafia." And I'm like, "I'm not in the Mafia." Right away, everybody, you see me, they talk to me. It's Cosa Nostra, and my friends are Cosa Nostra. I live in Cosa Nostra. Like it's everywhere, and they don't call it Cosa Nostra. Everything's the Mafia, even though that word doesn't exist. Nobody in the Cosa Nostra even calls it Cosa Nostra. They don't even call it. It's the life. Like I was always told, like, Hootie, you're gonna be in this life. This is how it's gonna be. You're gonna be in the life. This is how it's gonna be. You want to be a part of this thing? That's as far as how it was spoken. This thing or life. It was never called the Mafia. It was never called Cosa Nostra. No one ever said Omerta. Those were all Sicilian words. And also all these guys that I was running with Nobili, Don, Calabrese, Bades, none of them were Sicilian, There was large fractions of the family that were. Like the Banana family is probably one of the biggest when it comes to the Sicilians. And that's probably why they got like so much going up in Canada with the Sicilians. But it wasn't the Mafia ever. I mean, since I was a kid, I had made guys telling me that at 5 years old, like, this isn't the Mafia. This is not Sicily. This is America. This is our thing. This is life. We're in the life.
So there's a difference, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a big difference, you know what I mean? But nobody understands that. I mean, I hear many guys on here because they love it. Hashtag and Mafia. Because they want to get the hit. Because when people come on YouTube, they punch in Mafia.
Yeah.
I probably don't even hit. I probably, maybe by accident, hashtag Mafia once since I've been on social media. I try my hardest to leave the words out of it and give my supporters and listeners the real true Cosa Nostra. Because I listen to many guys and they're giving them the commercial act still. Because they want the money, they want the hits, they want to be in that algorithm. I'm not really into it like that. I'm into it as if you want to talk to Hootie, I can sit down and tell you about Cosa Nostra, the real deal, from the 1980s on till the beginning, until I got pinched, And even now, with my ear to the street, I'm still seeing people and talking and hearing things, and getting back to what you wanted to know about. So about 10 months before I get called in, I ain't been around in 5 years. So I'm away from Cosa Nostra. I got nothing to do with them. And the money that I've always earned wasn't from Cosa Nostra. I came into Cosa Nostra with my own earnings. I never. If I was bookmaking or if I was my money. I didn't need their money. I didn't need their offices. I had my own connection, my own offices overseas in Costa Rica. I didn't need any of that. But of course, whatever I did, they tied into being in Cosa Nostra because it's pretty funny that I'm hearing from like a boss, another boss, a consigliere, a captain, that their lawyers are asking them and telling them stay away from the kid who it wasn't even like they were trying to make the pinch my fault because I was an ex drug dealer. I haven't sold drugs in 5 years, 6 years at this point. But all these heavyweights, lawyers are telling them to stay. Like they need somebody to point the finger out why everybody's there. It's like, listen, you're an organized crime. You're supposed to be here, not because it's written. You're supposed to be here. I'm the guy that wasn't supposed to be here. So I get called in about 10 months earlier. I haven't spoke to nobody. I'm getting handed lists and things to do and this and that. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on? They're like, somebody went bad. We know he's bad. They're gonna come any day. We need you to take over. Here's the list of guys you got to grab, guys you got to see, money, bookmaking, connection, all the whole. And I'm like, wow, I knew the guy from the streets. When the tapes came out, it was 400 hours. They tried to act like I was on 4 of those tapes, and we would, it was like 6 months in. And one of my lawyers went through the tapes finally and was like, Hootie's not on one tape. Every one of the, because they tell you which ones to listen to, parts of the tapes. And they're like, that's not Hootie talking to this guy. So like, I never even had a conversation with the informant. So I'm like, I'm good. I never dealt cards with this guy. I never, traded baseball cards with this guy. Why would I think I'm on this, indictment, but it went back to 1991. When I actually got my nickname. So this indictment went back a long way. And this guy buried everybody. So I'm like, all right, I take the information, I go put it away, never to be found, and go back to my regular life, getting called once in a while to go out, meet them at bars now, and a little bit, still going to dinner, like kind of like mending an old flame with a girl, but that's how we kind of mended a little bit. But we weren't there yet, Bang. 2011, January 19th. Boom, bang. 700 law enforcement agencies from all over the country. Lock everybody up. I don't know this. They call my cell phone. Yo, Hootie, what's up? Come out 5:30 in the morning. Yeah, listen, Hootie, come out. It's a Thursday morning now. I'm like, who's this? They're like, you know what this is? This is us. Where are you? Because we're in front of your house. Come outside. Because some people that had arrest warrants for, other people that had search warrants, plus the arrest warrants, they just had an arrest warrant for me, and they couldn't find me. So they called me, and I was like, listen, I'll meet you on Cross Bay and Pickens Avenue in 15 minutes. It's like 5:30 in the morning. It's freezing out. I get dressed. I go to Cross Bay and Pickens. 5 carloads of FBI come out, guns drawn. I'm like, I just told you I'd meet you here. Like, what's the guns drawn for? I'm like, now, it's not hitting me yet how serious this is. I'm thinking it's just my old crew, 6 guys, 8 guys, maybe. And maybe he buried some other guys that you might see in lockup. I have no idea. So they don't tell you nothing. I had a license and a $20 bill. And I had a old Yankee coat on. It was cold out. They're like, listen, you're not going to need the coat. You're not going to need the money. So they drove back to my house and they put the coat and the money on my stoop. In Queens, we still had stoops. Yeah. So they put it on the stoop. And they drive. All of a sudden, I'm getting into Jersey. And I'm like, Jersey? I'm like, now that's one thing I made sure I never did. I never crossed borders. If I picked up anything, I paid extra to get it in New York State. I don't want to cross borders with the wrong nickel. Forget about that. I learned about those charges young, reading books in the law library in jail about, all types of things, crossing borders with guns, drugs, Hobbs Acts, all types of stuff. And I knew, you're crossing a border or you're doing anything illegal with guns or money or drugs, they're putting your lights out. So I'm like, why am I going to Jersey? It's a little funny. So we get to the Armory, which is, it's like the end of Brooklyn. And this is we're on the Army base, right? And I'm just It just bugs me out. And they put us in the armory, like the gymnasium. And I'm like, what the? And I got 2 agents behind me, and I walk in, and it was like the who's who of organized crime. Guys I haven't seen in 20 years, guys I was close with, guys I went to sit downs with in other families. It was insane. I mean, now it's like I got butterflies and I want to throw up at the same time. Because, now like I'm seeing guys like, holy shit, there's a captain from the Colombos. There's an underboss from the Bananas. Like, it was just insane, right? So I wind up getting, I guess they had like the Gambinos in one. This place was huge. I mean, 127 guys, over 700 law enforcement agencies from all over the country, all over the state, whatever. They got, regular cops, ATF, that everybody helped them on this. You don't know this until we get to, lockup, and, you're hearing it on the TV or you get a news, like I was in the box for 30 days and didn't see or really talk to anybody besides my lawyer. But so I didn't even know that could happen. I didn't even know I'm supposed to be there. And I got all this crazy shit happening. So like I get into the line. I'm looking around. It's all getting. I'm looking. It's like, all right, this must be the game. My crew section, because they put me behind a very, very, very good friend of mine who I consider like a brother. He's a May guy, and he turns around and he looks at me and he goes, because he knows I haven't been involved in anything organized crime wise, and he looks at me and he goes, "What are you doing here?" He goes, "Wait." He looks up, and the 2 agents look like 2 college kids. And he went, "Oh, okay. I would have sold drugs to those guys too. Like, I was there because I sold drugs to the FBI." Like, he looked at the guys and was like, "All right, they didn't look like cops, so like it was just like an inside thing, a street thing." He looked up at them and said, "All right, I can understand why you're here." Meaning, like, he would have sold drugs to them. That means I would have sold drugs to them.
Yeah.
Because that was my reputation.
Damn.
It wound up being that, yeah. So this guy took down the whole part of like the old school East New York, Ozone Park, and Howard Beach Gambino family, which was like that was considered like the Gotti regime, because we all, all of us mostly came up because John Gotti was the boss at the time in our neighborhood, and he was our guy. That was the guy we all wanted to look up to. He was the guy whose picture we hung in our house and our social clubs. So that was considered like the Gotti part of the family, and that was us. And that whole family was taken down. So I guess they must have had other operations going on and just like, what, we're taking down so many Gambinos. Let's go after all the families. And that's what just must have happened the year prior, 2 years prior. Who knows, I'm over here thinking if they all got pinched, I was getting rich because I got the list. I'm going collecting from everybody, and I'm not giving nobody $1. You know what I mean? Like, these guys are all rich. I'm not worried about their families and them surviving. I got the list. I'm collecting all that money, and it's over. It's over. The big house on the hill, everything. And now I'm sitting in line with these guys. And then it was just chaos from there. Career criminal. You get in the feds, it's over. They will not let you. It's easiest thing in the world, getting locked up with them. The hardest thing in the world for them to let you out. They come up with crimes like you could. I don't know what they did after they got that RICO Act with Giuliani in the 80s. I don't know what happened, but they came up with so many crimes. Like, they were charging guys and giving guys life in prison for crimes in other states that they never stepped foot in, because they're saying those guys were with you. Like, the craziest shit that you could imagine. Out of everybody in my crew, I was the only one that fought career criminal. These guys want to talk about informants and rats and stool pigeons and this and that. I went and fought career criminal from the box and had no idea. And that was 20 years right there. Career criminal is 20 years. As soon as you walk in that courtroom, it's like a bail hearing. It's 15 minutes. The most, maybe 15 minutes. You sit there, they explain their part, you explain your part, and the judge makes a decision. Just like that, your lights are knocked out. This is before I'm even getting charged with 30, 10-year mandatory minimums that they want to give me. And then the 20 on the RICO. You know what I mean? It's like, if you get caught for a body in the state, you get less time than what these guys are looking to give you on a conspiracy. And that was it, man. I'm looking. So I go in, stand up, going to take the 20. I have no, like, what am I going to do? I have no idea. I haven't spoke to a lawyer for 5 minutes, haven't spoke to my family, haven't spoke to anybody in my own crew really, like on a serious tip in 6 years. And I'm sitting there looking at, and hey, USA, the guy's a superstar. Like, we know this guy. The guy's like a movie star. I think he's on CNN now, matter of fact. Like, I'm looking at this USA, and I'm like, How am I even in the same courtroom with this guy?
What
You
the
know?
hell?
Yeah, man. And thank God the judge went my way on that, and he leans over when I'm walking out, and I don't even want to say anything to the AUSA. And he leans over and goes, "But you're never going to get bail." And I went back to the box, and he was right. I never got bail.
Damn.
And then that was it, man. And the stories and the bullshit and who's no good and who's bad and who did this and who did that. Nobody did anything. It's organized crime.
How many
All
years
right.
did
We're
they
all
give you?
here. We're all here because we're Italian. We're all here because we were part of something bigger than us because we wanted to be. Now stand up and take the hit. Regardless that, and I'm going to be honest with you, they didn't find a single thing. Maybe I could think of 30 guys within the Gambino family. They didn't find a nickel bag, a $5 bill at a place, nothing. It was not a single piece of evidence. It was all grand jury testimony, wiretaps, and conspiracy. And I mean, if you had everything up, they wanted to give me 100 years. If you
Jeez.
asked the probation report, he said I should have went to jail for 1,000 years. He told the judge. That is the great part of the federal system. It's the only great part of the federal system. They got no programs in jail to get you home early. There's no such thing as getting you home. You sit around, you do your time, you come home if you're lucky, because they give out football. Forget about football numbers. They're giving out zip codes now. When
Yeah.
I was coming up, they were giving out football numbers. Today, they give out zip codes. So, I mean, if you get lucky, you come home. There's no getting your degree. There's no trailer visits. You know what I mean? You're behind a
Yeah.
plate glass window until you get into a low after you got 10 years of good behavior. And that's that. It's not like the state where I'm working 7 jobs, programs, getting trailers every 8 to 12 weeks, whatever it is,
Hmm.
seeing your family, touching, kissing, taking photos. That ain't going on. That's it.
Damn.
They're hitting you with that sledgehammer and lights out. And I learned my lesson. I mean, I was already out of the game for 6 years. I was bookmaking on the side, making a little money, going back to work, trying to get my union thing going. And they come and disrupted the whole thing. And it's like, this is about rehabilitation. Like, you guys already cured me 6 years ago. I'm good. It ain't about rehabilitation because they would have left me alone. They said, you know what? Hootie's doing right. Living with his family, working. I had a little bookmaking on the side. Lawyers are bookmaking on the side. You know what I mean? It's legal now in New York City. But that was it. They don't believe in rehabilitation. They would have left me alone if they did. Because if you learned your lesson and you're doing the right thing now, what are you coming for me now? And you're not coming for me because you caught me doing a crime. You're coming for me because 3, 4 more people went to the grand jury and said I was this big Gambino character. You know what I mean? Come on. That's what it is. Ham sandwich gets you indicted. It's bullshit. And
How
then
many
you're looking at 4,000 years.
how many years did they give you?
I wound up getting time served, which was like 5 years at the time. I did
Damn.
like 3.5 on it. Came home, probation. But what I did, they considered no good, and I could care less. I was out of the life. I never spoke on my friends. I never went in. No one ever asked me a question on one guy. I was never asked one thing about one guy on my case. Not one thing. A U.S. attorney's never walked in and said, an FBI agent never walked in and said, "What did so and so ever?" I've never. They never even came. They came. They got me because I decided to jump off a plea. See, they started these things called global pleas. So what happens is they take 100 years
Hmm.
and they say, "You 3 guys, whack up that 100 years. However you need to whack it up. You 3 guys, whack up 60 years. You 5 guys, whack up 200 years." But they do it in months. It's pretty funny, too, because I remember I heard a guy walk in and go, "Yo, they only offered me 120 months.
Mm.
I'm like, "Hey, buddy, that's 10 years, my friend." He went,
Yeah.
"What? Oh, wait a second. Let me do that math again." A lot of guys, they come back thinking like they got a great, my lawyer told me they offered 120 months. 240 months. I could do 240 months. I'm like, "Oh, you could do 20 years on a conspiracy that you didn't even get caught." What? 20 years? What do you mean 20? Yeah, that's what 240 months is, my friend. Count it up. Like, a lot of these guys don't even realize that,
They make it sound
because
like it's a
everything,
lot less
right.
with the
They're
months.
like, "Oh, 60 months? I
No.
got that on my head." What do you mean? That's 5 years. 5 years. Oh, wow. 5 years. Wait. Oh, can I counter offer? Like, people just, they
Mm.
don't get it, And I'm
Yeah.
in there like, "Listen, you guys don't realize they're putting our lights out." Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm watching everything that's going on, and I'm like, "Yeah, There's no evidence. There's nothing that we've done. They got nothing on us. Everything was from things that we did prior. So I'm like, if they're looking to get us for shit that we did years ago, because there's nothing going on today. My whole crew was good, well off, had everything established, money, houses, money put away. They were good. So the only thing they could get them on is whatever they think they did in the past. And I'm like, listen, if that's what they're looking to do to us, because we were like the longest running crew without, a big pinch, without a guy going bad. Like we had a great reputation with, the crew that I came up with for like 100 years within that crew. Yeah. It was dynamite, solid. And I'm like, they're looking to put us underneath the jail. Have you guys not realized that yet? Like I was in a co-defendant meeting one day, and I'm looking around, and you want to talk about a superstar team? I don't care where you are in the country. I don't care how many high-power attorneys you think there were. That room was $1 billion room. The attorneys that were in this room were the most powerful defense attorneys in the world. And I'm looking around going, we're in trouble. Like, you got a boss, an underboss, a consigliere, captain. Like, there was nothing less than a captain on this case. Like, and like with stripes. I mean, and even high-powered made guys. Like, not just because there's made guys I would walk past and like, I guess, and get out of the way, But then there's made guys where they got crews and money, and you got respect for them. And these are the guys that I'm sitting in a room with, and it's like, yo, this is crazy. Like this is life. You know what I'm saying? Like people think life imitates art. This is art. Art will be imitating this in 20 years. You know what I mean? Like this is what it is right here. Yeah. You watch The Godfather. You watch Goodfellas.
They'll probably make a movie for that.
Here. Yeah, listen to me. There was probably the first offer was probably about between every guy in that room was 10,000 years with no life. You add up all the years, so they wanted to give everybody in that room. It was probably about 10,000 years, And I remember I'm sitting around and we're all deciding on counsel, and then they decide on who's going to be the head guy because they want us all at the arraignment. They're not letting us go separately. So then we're all sitting around, and I'm sitting around, and now they come to me, and it's like, I'm like, little old me, little old Hootie's the guy now. I was the drug dealer. You're the guy they're looking for. All the government does it. You're the only guy that had a fight career criminal as a boss. Like I said, all it's upper echelon. I'm the only guy fighting career criminal. It's like, and then all their lawyers are looking at me. Like, listen, how you pleading this out? Like, oh, what do you mean? Oh, they were offering 10,000 years. I'll take 9,000. The other 19 guys will whack up 1,000. Like, what are you even talking about? I go to work every day now. So it was the craziest situation I was ever put in. So I decided, I watched the way things were going. I was watching made guys, captains, cry in cells and want to blame other people. And it's like you took that oath. Like I want to hold that down. Like, and I know guys, like I was at outside ceremonies. I know the saints that burnt in guys' hands. I'm looking at guys going, man, Padre Pio is pissed at you right now. San Padre Pio is like, man, he's pissed right now because, like, what are you doing? You took that, like, this is the life you wanted, and you in there talking about having an anxiety attack. So, like, just the craziest shit. Or you're talking about, let's blame this guy. And it's like, bro, they know that you're the captain. You can't blame an associate, bro. They know everything. You can't blame it all. Like, man, you're just in here dry snitching anyway. And it was just blowing my mind. And I was like, you know what? I'm getting off this global plea. They consider that being a rat. I threw myself on the mercy of the judge. You go in front of the judge. That's the good part of the federal court. That's what I'm getting back to now. In federal system, that they can recommend, the AUSA can recommend whatever they want. The judge is going to look at it and look at your status and your letters and your people and what you've done in your life. And he's going to decide what he's going to give you. In the state, your lawyer and the assistant district attorney, they make a deal. You go in front of the judge and say, the judge asks you happy with the district attorney's offer? Yes. Did anybody force you to take this offer? No. District attorney, what's the offer? 5 years. Okay, 5 years. Bang. Over. It's not like that. Now the judge looks at it, and I took a deal where I'm going to go in front of the judge and I'm going to confess to every crime that I ever did. Mm-hmm. Because they had shit all twisted, how it was. And they could, to this day, they could still think that, my money that I made in drugs years and years ago, part of the Gambino family, never was. None of my crimes were. I was part of the Gambino family because I wanted to be. I went in a gangster. I went in a drug dealer. I went in a tough. Like I went in with all of those things. I didn't get them in there. You know what I mean? And I went into and I sat in front of the judge, and I had a compassionate judge. There's two things this judge was. He didn't like organized crime, and he didn't like bullies. So if you were passionate and you were sympathetic and you were sorry, he wasn't going to let the U.S. government bully you.
Damn.
But if you were organized crime and you were standing there like you didn't do anything wrong and you didn't belong there, he was going to give you 100 years, you know? So I went in and I confessed to everything I ever did, you know? Brett Baja, that guy was no good. I'm heard on your show, that guy was no good. He was the U.S. attorney for the Southern District, and he hated it. He was racist against Italians. He made me eat my whole indictment, hoping the judge was going to throw 1,000 years at me because I beat career criminal. He just wanted every Italian locked up and put away. He comes from a Muslim background, and that's the one Trump fired. And not to get into politics or anything like that, but we got to watch what we put in place. And criminal, I'm not a guy that gets into politics, but I know like Obama like praised this guy and put him there, and this guy hated Italians, like racist against Italians, like you couldn't believe. Like he made me eat an indictment that was insane. The charges that I had to take. Like if you would have added those charges up and it was up to the U.S. attorney, you know, like my grandkids' parole officer hasn't been born yet. Like that's how many years they wanted to give me, you know? And I threw myself in front of the judge and I told him everything I did. Nobody asked me about anything that anybody else did. Right. No one ever came to my jail cell. No one ever came to a jail and sat down with me and said, yo, did your boy do this? What did your boy do that? Hootie. That was it. Hootie, were you involved in this? Hootie, did you do this? Hootie, were you on this? Hootie, were you on this? Yeah, all of that went down. But that was it. None of the guys I grew up with, none of the guys in my crew, none of their names were even mentioned to me. And I threw myself on the mercy of the judge, went back to a jail, sat there for a year or two, went back. You know, they throw a probation report together. The judge reads that. The judge reads your stuff. And, you know, by the time I looked at it, I had over 3+ years in. Time served is like 60 months, you know, on the books. And, you know, I wound up doing like 4 years and 10 months because I got jammed up when I came home. I think I had like 3 or 4 years supervised release. I couldn't even tell you because they just kept restarting my parole for the first year. So, you know, that was it. And then I walked away from the life. And, you know, if you heard my story after that, I couldn't get a job anywhere. You know, nobody looked at me no more. My friends were gone. I couldn't work in the unions anymore. They took away all my union books. You know, acquaintances, even the legitimate guys were just like, listen, Hootie. And it was listen, if they're your friends, they stand by you. But if they use the excuse, listen, you know, you might not be that, but everybody does think that, and it'll be bad for my business if you're here. That ain't your friend, you know? And I wound up going to work in a thrift shop selling used furniture for $10 an hour and renting a room. Came home homeless, came home broke, came home with nothing. I rented a room for no Christian man bi-weekly and worked in a thrift shop for $10 an hour. And that's how I restarted my life.
Damn. That's crazy.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, they really put you, you know, through the system, man, through all the loops and everything.
Yeah, that rehabilitation shit, that don't mean nothing. They ain't trying to rehabilitate nobody. They're trying to put everybody in jail. One officer said, just came out of pocket and was like, we just need to put a fence around your whole neighborhood and just keep everybody locked up.
Jesus.
That's what they think of the Italians. That's what they think. And believe me, that's what they don't. Oh, it's only the few. No, they think of all Italians like that. I promise you that.
That's fucked up, man.
Yeah. Well, not on one wiretap, not one piece of evidence, just a couple knuckleheads going in front of the grand jury saying Hootie's this and Hootie's that.
And you end up getting
before you know it, shit, looking at a million and natural life on the end.
Damn.
Crazy.
So what do you do now? You know, like what do you got going on now? You know, because
I was working. I wound up getting into FedEx, even with a record. I slid in. I was working for the Teamsters, like mechanical union out in Suffolk County, doing like working heavy machinery, cleaning floors at like Costco, mostly all Costco. I was a Costco employee, and I was working, the thrift shop, cleaning floors at Costco and FedEx. And then I got hurt last year. I got hit in the head with a pallet. Some guy was out of control, and I've been out. I happened to get a surgery on my shoulder, and now I'm going for another one on my knee and something on my back. It really screwed me up bad. Then I got into a car accident. And after that,
Jesus.
and then, shit got bad the last year. So I'm just sitting right now, getting healthy.
Yeah.
And then I'll be back to work, on the grind, like anybody else, waiting for that first of the month to come to pay my rent.
Yeah. Are you still doing the podcast?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't, I got a ton of content.
Mm-hmm.
Content that's great. It's, I rather just, I got certified as a life coach. I try to mentor people, not talking about going out there and helping anybody in particular. I got people that jump my DMs that, listen to some serious stuff, guys that want to kill themselves, that don't want to live anymore, and, talk them off the ledge. And, if my show can help people doing that, I'll continue doing it. But I'm not going to put my show out with such authentic stuff in this genre that so many idiots have joined that know nothing about it, and they get praised and, they get put in algorithms. And it's not jealousy or hate. It's just I'm watching them tell stories and beefs, and that's what the public's looking for. And it's like, I can't give you this solid, authentic Cosa Nostra street stuff if that's the shit that you guys are listening to. Right. So I really haven't made actually, this is, and just because, we've been going back and forth, and, and I had to respect you enough to do this interview, but I even shut down interviews. I haven't interviewed with nobody. I haven't done any of it. I've seen where the genre went. Yeah. Like when I came into the genre, there wasn't one organized crime mob. There was, what are they called, mob? There wasn't nothing in true crime about the Mafia. It was the John and Gene show, and that was it. That was it. My boy Gene, I mean, people hear me talk about it. Probably the only person, right, probably on the face of the earth right now that I trust, but I can't be near him. I can't talk to him because he's on parole and I'm a convicted felon and I'm probably on his list. And, but, he put me on. I was his first in-studio guest.
I seen that today.
Oh, yeah. That was my first. Yeah, that was it. That was it, and, I knew the guy he worked with from the streets, but, we weren't friendly, and I knew his reputation. But, Gene, I knew since he was a kid, his family name, his uncles, cousins, everything. And, as wild boy as that boy is, like, he was like one of the only kids because he was younger than me. I'm not calling him a kid, but back then they were young, that was allowed to come to my house and be around my family and around my kids. And I trusted him like that. And if anybody knows his reputation, they had him down as like worse than Charles Manson in Howard Beach, like running through everybody in that neighborhood. And he was a bad boy like that, but not with me. So he was good, and he's changed his life now. And I talked to his family, and we have a lawyer, a friend and I know he's doing good. Is whatever, the government and other people are trying to hurt him and shit is bullshit, and I wish I could get out there and give him a hug and tell him he'll be all right. Cause that's my little, it's my little brother. But I can't right now. Yeah. But I know he's doing the right thing no matter what the government says. And, he put me on in that interview, and I didn't realize I was going to get the feedback like I did. And I just had got a smartphone. I never even had a smartphone before. Really? And he was like, yo, what are you doing? Like, and he was like, cause he knew me to be, with, the ladies. I love the ladies. Ladies love me. Like, so he's like, yo, you're not on Instagram? Like, this is like the first time now after COVID that I've seen him in person. He's like, you ain't got an Instagram account? Well, yo, he took my phone. He's like, I didn't even know how to do it. He was like, yeah, boom, 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 boom. He's like, yo, you're going to get mad chicks. Like, girls are going to find you from 20 years ago. You got to see how this thing works. Like, and I put an Instagram account together, and that was it. It blew up. But it blew up in the way, not for dating and shit like that. It blew up for organized crime. It blew up for that genre. And then all of a sudden, YouTube channels started popping up after his. And now it's forget about it. But that was like one of the original shows. That was it. And
that's how I reached out to you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That show's still I still get people call me up and like, yo, what's up with that green Supreme sweatshirt you were wearing? You know, we had velour you had. I still get people calling me about that. Like, where did you get a fucking Supreme velour suit from? Like, you have no idea. That green sweatsuit too was like a big deal. And then Vlad called me, and Vlad interviewed like 10 guys that weekend, and he usually does his interviews through the microphone, through like the speaker.
Mm-hmm.
He flew to New York, and he's got one of those guys that doesn't like to be around COVID or sick people.
Mm-hmm.
He came all the way to see me, and
Damn.
all the way to New York to interview me face to face. And we sat down, and I was totally honest. That video is all honesty. That was my life. No, there's people out there trying to hate, trying to change history. Can't change history. That's what happened. That's what it was. And that's where you get the most roars, Hootie. And you know what? He interviewed like 10 guys from the streets that day. And he's a guy that interviews rappers and movie stars. And he took my video and turned it into 12 videos and started a paid streaming service starting with my video. And I wound up getting like 4 million views off of that. It's
Damn.
crazy.
Yeah, no, I watched that interview too. That was a really good one
Yeah.
that he did, you know.
Yeah, you know that, but that was my life. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not sitting there going to tell you the story ain't going to change. You know what I mean? And that's
Right.
history right there.
Yeah. And
But I appreciate it. I
yeah.
appreciate the support.
Yeah, no, I like that, man. And you know, I was gonna say, since you brought up Gene, you know, I talked to him, I think today and yesterday. I'm gonna be getting his book and then probably doing an interview with him. So, I mean,
Good.
if you want me to tell him hi or anything, you know, I can
Yeah,
pass a
just tell him his
message,
big
bro.
brother loves him, man, and he's here for him mentally and spiritually. I can't get to him, but you can tell him his big brother's rooting for him, and he loves him, and you know, nothing but support.
Yeah, definitely, I will, man. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that's pretty much all I had. I mean, you covered everything. I mean, shit.
Yeah, most people say that about me in an interview,
Yeah.
and I guess I'm still doing it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you covered it all. I mean, so I didn't even really have to say much, you know what I mean? So that's good, you know, that because I mean, like you said, if your story stays, you know, the same, you ain't really, nothing changes, you know, I mean, it's like you said, this is what you went through and you experienced. So, you know, it's going to be the same and you're going to talk about, you know, the same stuff. It ain't going to change.
So if we got a little time, I want to switch this up a little bit because if you know a little bit about me,
Yeah.
I create content just off a conversation. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
what about you? Like, you know, I really didn't get your background because couldn't get me on phone. Then we
Yeah, I
get on
know.
email. Then my phone gets smashed and I couldn't see what you were saying to me. Like, shit was just crazy with us being, you know, connecting. And
Right.
I try to get to see about your show, but like, where did you come from? Did you come from the streets? And
No.
why did you start this? Tell me about yourself a little bit so I know who interviewed me. Like, because I usually just don't throw interviews out there like this. You're the first one in a minute.
Damn, I appreciate that. You know, but you know, for me, basically, you know, I started a clothing brand back in 2020, you know, called Invest in Yourself Clothing. And then, you know, I kind of branched off to started doing the podcast a year later. You know, I wanted to give the brand a voice, you know, so I started doing it with comedians, actors, ex-Marine people, you know, photographers, moon people, you know, just all kinds of different shit, you know, and then I kind of
Yeah.
dipped into the, you know, the mob genre, you know, from Bobby Luisi. I did one with him because my buddy mentioned it to me and I was like, damn, there's actually people out here that, you know, are from the mob and they can talk about their stories and stuff. I didn't even fucking know, bro. So like the
Yeah,
beginning
it's
of this
crazy.
year, yeah, and I was just like, holy shit, you know, so this is really, really cool. You know, it's like, all right, so let me hit up this person, this person, this person, this person knows this person, this, you know, so it just kind of kept branching out, you know, and then I came across your name either on, it was on Vlad probably, you know, and I was like, oh shit, let me reach out to this guy. And, you know, you sure as shit, you know, you talked about the Instagram, so you had that. So I was just like, yeah, let me try. And then, you know, whoever does someone run your Instagram, I think?
Yeah. Because I don't respond to any of my stuff, YouTube,
Yeah.
Instagram. So there's always like an intern or somebody running up in there and answer. And I don't, because I'm known for not blocking nobody. If you ever watch my lives, they're like, who do you block this guy? And they go, somebody on a fake name going off. And I'm like, I don't block shit. I don't return any of the messages. They'll tell me, you know, this person reached out, wants a little help, and boom, I'll get on that and get on them and start talking to them,
Yeah.
100%. But they deal with all the other bullshit, so that you must have got a little jammed up in there.
Yeah, I did too. But, you know, and then we eventually made the interview happen. But no, I mean,
Yeah.
basically, you know, me, I'm just college graduate. I just graduated in December, you
Oh, that's a
know.
beautiful thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm 22 years old, you know, and I'm just, doing this. Hopefully, I sell the clothing brand, and I sell the hot sauce. I do the podcast, and then I also have my other job that I do, to bring in money as well. But hopefully, the end goal for this is to make it sustainable and make a living off this stuff because I love hearing people's
Yeah,
stories.
listen, you're doing well, and you're doing big things for 22. God bless you,
Thank you.
because I didn't know you were that young, and you come off very intelligent. You come off very respectful, like you are older. So 22, man, I wouldn't have picked that out. You got a baby face. You do look young, but the respect level and how you carry yourself isn't 22, and you don't find that today. That's like my main thing. And like when I came home, I caught 5 charges the first year, and it was like 2 disorderly conducts and 3 assaults because I couldn't take the way people were talking to me. Like these young boys were out of line, and it's still to this day. I'm in Jersey, Hoboken, and it's a big, town. That's a big, and then you come to New York City, and then people are just talking to you on this level where it's like, yo, I would have just smashed this whole face, and that's just the way. But I'm not like that anymore. And you speak with great respect, and you know your thing. And listen, what I was trying to do is the same thing. Like I was trying to bring pop culture into organized crime and show people how that they used to go hand in hand, from
Yeah.
jewelry to clothes to style to everything that was going music, from Jay-Z or this one and that one from Brooklyn, from the same neighborhoods that we grew up in and all of that. But my listeners weren't having it. I did a couple episodes and they were like, yo, who killed who in '84 and who shot who? We don't
Yeah.
want to hear about Jay-Z going platinum or driving a Lexus or what kind of Jordans you rocked all your life. Fuck that shit. And, so it didn't work. But, if you got that kind of audience, because that's where you started with, clothing line and music, and that's where it's at. I seen it. I know it. It's fashion. I'm a big fashion guy. You couldn't tell because I wear white PJs all day long. I still represent the old school. But
Yeah.
fashion is where it's at. Music, pop culture, all this stuff that's going on right now, because the world is in shambles.
Yeah.
So everybody's looking for an outlet. So an outlet is fashion, is music, is movies, it's Netflix, it's Hulu, even though Netflix is doing better. It's all that stuff, and that stuff is all pop culture.
Yeah. It
So
is.
if that's how your channel was started, and then you could throw the mob stuff in there, but you got that audience, I think you're going to do well. And and I think you interview well, and you're a smart guy. So
Thank you.
listen, I appreciate the interview, Adrian, and thank you.
Yeah, I
Good luck.
appreciate. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, man. I hope you get to feeling, better too. With the car wreck and fucking getting hit in the head with the pallet and shit.
Yeah.
I think they ain't gonna feel
maybe
good.
maybe it finally smartened me up.
No, but I hope you start feeling better, man. And I just really wanted to say,
Appreciate it.
thank you for coming on my show and spending an hour or so with me. And yeah, thank you, man.
All right. Appreciate it, man. Stay up. Jindan.
Yeah, you too. Let me hit. Well, what'd you think? If you liked it, didn't like it, comment. Please let me know. Also, thank you so much for watching, making it this long, and, listening to him because I really didn't even have to talk too much in this one. So please hit subscribe and like, share, whatever you want. I really just appreciate anything. I appreciate you watching and making it this far. Thanks.